it doesn't say how the board makes that determination. It doesn't say if they come back before the board. I think it says that determines upon substantial evidence that the member, officer, or director was not personally at fault, did not acquiesce in the matter on account of which the license was suspended or revoked. And the provision now is, or the procedure now is that each individual has to come back before the board.
That's the way it's been done in the past. I think it's, have you looked at in terms of the rules and see if that,
Looking at the statute.
does the rules address that? I haven't had that issue for a while, so I'm not that familiar.
It's 1719-210G.
Yeah, I want to check the rules.
You're looking at the old statute. I'm gonna check the power part there. It should be 1719-210H.
That does mean you'll have to come in for an individual hearing.
Right now, there's not substantial evidence that anybody was not personally at fault. But the way it's worded, it sounds like it puts an onus on them to provide you with substantial evidence that they were not personally at fault and they didn't acquiesce in that.
The rules, section 16, looks like, D, the definition of bail bond industry is still included, there's a bunch of stuff there. No person whose bail bond license has been revoked may be employed by a bail bond company in the past. Additional, no member, officer, or director of a bail bond company whose license has been revoked may be employed by a bail bond company in any capacity unless the board in a specific findings fact in the matter that the member, officer, or director was not personally at fault and did not acquiesce in the matter on account of which the company license was revoked as provided by in 179210. That may be just the same wording as what's in the statute. I don't know.
So basically, if the owner of the company or president or any officer.
It says any member.
Any member, so that includes agents.
I mean, that's up to y'all. It's not me. It says additionally, no member, comma, officer or director. Past history has been no one license was allowed to transfer until the board had a hearing on that individual person as to their involvement in the company being. That goes back to the manual, Gary Foster's.
Well, we stand on that matter, and then if there is a licensee who is deemed, I would even go as far to give the executive director that leeway, that if there's an agent out there that is deemed not to be liable for this, to give them the authority to transfer a license.
How many agents are we talking about?
Or there's 6, David.
6 agents.
And that man, he's stealing from the board.
I would go along with that, Mr. Chairman, if I did not hear testimony that this was a family-oriented group decision.
So we'll have to come from the board for a hearing.
So would we handle that kind of like, and I'm just trying to get this through, so that I can follow y'all's direction, kind of like a new application license. In some cases I deny them, and then that individual can appeal my denial to the full board.
Simply, Mr. Rose's statement is that any of them the transfer unit coming from the board.
Okay, I see.
I think that's, would be a good procedure, as though it's a new application that you can deny, and then we can have the hearing. And it might be because I don't know the makeup of, I mean, they call it, it's a family and everybody's doing everything. If somebody wants to take responsibility and,
We have Mr. Veely here, if it's okay with this council, they might, at this time, be willing to offer testimony to the record as to the degree of his involvement and the involvement of other people. And it would be up to the discretion of the board if they want to believe his testimony or not, if they want to hear more.
Keep silent.
Yeah, I don't think this is the right time to do that.
Keep silent. Keep
I think
silent.
that'd be fair.
They're hanging themselves. They're creating procedures as they
Saying each
go.
individual needs to come before the board on a transfer, or that's,
yeah.
Make an application.
Make a new application.
Well, transfer requires an application process, but it's not treated as a new application. The way the current process works is the company transferring from can object. And if they object, then there's an informal hearing at some point. So if the company's transferring from doesn't object, then it normally would be approved. Not approved, it would normally happen, it's not something that actually comes before me. If y'all are saying this is going to be different, then you need to give us instruction as a staff how we're to handle it.
Okay, so that would be a formal motion.
Yes.
I make a motion that no previously licensed agents with Best Bell Barnes Incorporated,
Currently, or
currently licensed, I'll rephrase. I make a motion that no person currently licensed under Best Bell Bonds Incorporated be allowed to transfer their Arkansas professional bail bond license to another company without a hearing before this board. Is that clear enough? Second.
All in favor? Opposed?
so it's two other things. One is the issue with the money that's still in, Mr. Peters still has in an account somewhere. It's taken from Best Belmont. When will that money be returned to Belmont?
It's already lined up. I'll let-
Statute discusses what happens with credit, basically in 1719, 210B. And it's upon revocation of any license under this chapter, the board will release to the licensee the qualifying bonds or certificate of deposit filed with the board only upon receipt of written documentation from all the courts in all the counties in which the licensee engaged in business, that all bonds issued by the licensee have been exonerated, and that no unpaid bond forfeitures remain outstanding, and that all civil judgments as to forfeitures on bonds issued by the licensee have been paid in full.
Is that the position the board is taking on that?
That's what the statute says.
If that contemplates going and getting the certificate of deposit before, or after the company's vote, now we're sitting in a position where Mr. Peters had the money prior to the revocation.
let's get the record correct. Mr. Peters doesn't have any money. State Treasury has the money, Mr. Hancock.
Well, you took the money and put it in the state treasury, you know where the money's.
I don't have the money, is my point.
It will be released pursuant to statute to the licensee, but the criteria that the statute puts on that, basically to protect the
So
courts.
they don't have to live up to the consent order we have to?
7 days, Beth, 7 days is all it takes to get every bit of it back, all $100,000.
Well, wait till they find out that he didn't get it back, they're gonna charge him.
One other
still.
thing I want to get clarification on is with respect to outstanding fees, the board's position that they can no longer be collected.
I couldn't hear you right.
That the board's position that the outstanding fees can no longer be collected by the company.
It's only been positive.
I
That's a civil contract.
It's still a contract, you can collect it.
It's a
to
civil
debt.
contract. We've got a company right now that their license was terminated 9 years ago, and they're still collecting fees.
And lastly, what,
Well, I think until you have a majority, a clear consensus, you don't really have an answer. As a matter of formality, we need a majority of the board to agree.
What?
My opinion is,
They don't make the law.
those outstanding fees that are owed you, I think you have the ability to collect.
We need to make that a motion.
You can move to adopt that as the position of the board.
Everybody agree with that?
I make a motion that the board adopts a position that any outstanding fees owed Best Bail Bonds, they have the avenue to collect.
All right, so we'll adopt that as the motion. What?
one thing I didn't understand with respect to the conclusion, or the penalty, did the board, ask for a second, or suspend them for a second time and then resulting in a revocation, or was it just a straight revocation based on the findings?
Suspension on the upheld from the emergency hearing on the hot check, and then a revocation on the failure to untimely payment. Yeah, untimely payment of judgment.
Okay, so it wasn't a second suspension, it was a straight revocation?
Right.
Lastly, I would ask the board to, once the order has been submitted and signed, and once a notice of appeal has been filed, the company chooses to appeal that, to stay the judgment of the board pending that appeal.
So you're asking us to stay there?
So stay your order pending the appeal. Once the order's been entered, we can file a motion, or a notice of appeal.
If the board is inclined to do that or not, I do want to bring it to the board's attention that 17-19-209E says that if a company license has been revoked because of unpaid judgments during the appeals process, the company shall file a supersedious bond in the amount of the unpaid judgments with the court in which the appeal is taken.
Past history is that the board has not issued any stays, that is always, as I can recall, that has always been left up to circuit court, which I think the court, the statute say the Pulaski County Circuit Court.
That was 17-19-209E, and it was written with the usual clarity. But, just to respond to what Mr. Peters said, both the APA, the APA specifically does allow either the court in which an appeal is taken, if one is taken under the APA, or this board to effect a stay. But an appeal doesn't automatically effect a stay. It's something within your discretion, then it's gonna be in the court's discretion.
I'm showing 17-19-209 to be a violation.
I'm sorry, 17-19-208E, sub E.
And I think I could even, potentially condition or qualify that on the supersedious bond with being filed and submitted to the board as well.
I'm not inclined to do that.
That's your commissioner.
So, because I'm the newest from here, what happens if they need a court? Then they can come back and get a license?
It's like the license,
It's up to what the judge says.
No, I'm saying if they,
That has happened, and when it has happened, the court has ordered reinstatement of the company. That has happened. Many years ago, but it has happened.
and then the board owes them lost revenue.
All right.
The supersedious bond would be a way to make sure that there is money there in the bill, so to speak. You know, in case they prevail, they get it back.
They have to do that in the circuit court, too, if they did it, right? And I don't think the board really wants to supersede bond, I think that's a court thing.
That's,
Right, no, it would go to the court.
that's one of the rule changes, I just saw it yesterday, so
Adjourn.